Abusia for Yamamunya Mo Akraba Daily Update TV. We offer for Abusia Bomodin so be subscribe like videos no. Share now so chrewa join for my Ghana and in some penny for a can a down a de bremono. Abusia we yan chakra ni yanko ni yankuti in some war. Abusia yes Sammy Gyamfi na just waba one tian betuja. Ama ne MPP for na abusia en ketewa kra and so one tuja ketewa na so one suja ketewa abusia one swaja ne go amuchin ate say nye enda form so am yen say mre ne yenko ne nkuti nsem na ngasa mfiri Sammy Gyamfi anum.
But I'm optimistic, like I indicated, that we have a formidable candidate for the Wale seat. So I know that no matter who emerges after this dispute, I sincerely hope that it is Dr. Kabiru. But no matter who emerges, I know that the NDC will be successful in this election. So far, even the assembly elections in Wale points to a clear direction, even though that is not partisan. We all know the underlying currents for assembly elections. And if you look at it, the NDC is far ahead of the MPP in Wale. And that gives me confidence that come 2024, we are going to win in Wale. But Doc, let me just correct one thing I said. I indicated that today you needed 13 Ghana cedis to get $1. I just got a message from my Forex Bureau guy. Today they are selling $1 at 13 cedis, 30 pesos. That's a correction I would make. 13 cedis, 30 pesos. And by the way, when I was talking about food inflation, I also forgot to add that even though the national food inflation average is 27.1%, if you go to the home region of the Minister for Agric, who yesterday was bragging about food prices reducing because of planting for food and jobs, the food inflation for his region, the eastern region, is the highest in the country and currently stands at 47%, 20 percentage points above the national average of 27%. And so he should be the first person to acknowledge the mess we find ourselves in and the excruciating economic difficulties that we are confronted with. And what we require of him as Minister for Agriculture now is candor, humility, sensitivity, and to move away from the cheap slogans, planting for food and jobs and so on, which have yielded nothing after we have spent billions and billions of cedis on, to focus on the most important things, okay, that affect the welfare of farmers, the important things that affect production levels, you know, for us to have some respite, because as it is now, things are getting bad and they are getting worse and worse by the day. And so you should revise his notes. The price of a ball of kenke is not 2 cedis. In Accra here, I can speak for myself. Yesterday I ate kenke. I bought one ball of kenke at 5 cedis. And even that one, you can see a significant reduction in the size of the ball of kenke. No. I buy my kenke at Chadu because I live around Chadu. Doc lives at Chadu. If I'm lying, you can say it. It's either I buy my kenke at Chadu or I buy it.
That's why I look for.
We buy our kenke.
Your cameraman is there.
Nima and then.
Which part of Nima?
Nima, New Town.
Are you going to put
specifically one day around the?
And it's 2 cities. Are you going to put your credibility on the line?
Oh, it's not 2 cities.
Because we can get a cameraman. No,
he knows it's not 2 cities.
If you say here that it is
no, he
2
knows
cities,
it's not.
we will just speak with Annie. Doc will just have to direct. Once we close.
No.
We all drive there with the cameraman.
The person
to go and buy that cake at 2 cities.
The person I asked is a Nima boy. Me. At least 3 or 4 times in a week, I go through Nima in Newtown. And so Doc knows that the 2 cities is out.
He can't say that. Now you want to be MP. So
on the more important, he appealed to my MP.
Yes.
But also in the course of the appeal,
he
tried to impugn what do you call it? Wrongdoing. I just think that issue has been litigated in the public space, even in her vetting to become the Deputy Minister of State. I remember Mr. Alasan Suyuni, the MPP, NDC's parliamentary candidate for Tamale North, raised it. I think at the committee level, even on floor, when they were going to approve them, they raised it. But at the end of the day,
have they accounted for it?
No, I think she's been cleared, because if she was not cleared, there were issues hanging. I'm not sure the committee will go ahead to recommend.
But you use it against her in the campaign.
No,
is your supporters
none of my supporters even raised any of that issue.
Okay.
So
we don't have the motors.
That is
the tricycles, and it is a fact. You can dispute the fact that the tricycles vanished under her tenure.
Tricycles.
You understand?
Tricycles
vanished under her
tenure. She was the deputy. Direct CEO of NDA.
And eventually became the substantive?
No, she never became the substantive. She left as deputy CEO. So she cannot be held responsible ultimately for whatever happens at NDA. So
abusia mote se de sem Gyamfi simene enye so abusia enye sem Gyamfi nkwa na wo studio wo ne MPP ni ba ko na wo na mo se de sem Gyamfi si e me de questions se hye no na abusia sem Gyamfi kan de wi na nipa ne kas MPP ne kasa no cheso wasa two questions apese oya ma MPP ni no kan asemi atese e den be tujam mo mo se de sem Gyamfi ye no MPP ni bi obechin bia wo studio bi na abusia o me hye so be dominate na mo tien se ma sem Gyamfi kana still na economic crisis na Sammy Gyamfi boso. Said the oman no aduane boa akosoro still na MPP for yi dey say food and then omonama. Omo kasa said the oman aduane boa ba from na omo da so brag na abusuan na Sammy Gyamfi ka cham so omo jai those big talks na dey keka ho no. Na omo mbo modern so mbe boa ma nuane boa ne nyama Ghana for the necessities na hia say be survive no. Omema ni nyina akofom na Ghana for timachana abusia ya shemre mo yenko ni nko so nti Sammy Gyamfi because o wonsempa kan abusia o kan sempa.
Yes.
Before you go on, just be careful with your interpretation of the data. Otherwise, people might get you wrong. Yes. I can understand what you want to say.
Exactly.
But please choose your words carefully.
Okay, so once you understand, probably that is basically...
But you're not communicating to just me, so...
it's part of your responsibility.
No matter who is communicating to, you cannot say that the data I'm relying on show that prices have come down significantly. No, or there has been a significant improvement in those metrics.
My intervention was because the impression I got, and Doc, correct me if I'm wrong, is that what Doc wanted to say was that the rate at which prices were increasing had dropped significantly. Not that prices
relative to what benchmark? No, maybe Doc.
No, previous inflation figures.
Which one? Which one are you? Which one is he referring to?
We have discussed on this same platform when Mr. Sammy Gyamfi and NDC communicators were communicating an inflation figure of over 50%. Government was sent to the cleaners. Government was characterized as being insensitive, driving this economy into the abyss. We've discussed that here. Now we have the situation improving to cost of living increasing at 23%. Okay, as at the last month of data released by the Ghana Healthcare Service. And I said that this is something that we must acknowledge, that the pace at which things were deteriorating has significantly improved. That's the point we all have to, and it's an established fact that we cannot run away from. To reduce it further. We are struggling so much to make sure that prices of goods are increasing. Japan, for instance, the optimal level of inflation. And that is what our policymakers are saying, that we have single-digit inflation. Okay, they are looking at something like 8%, plus or minus 2%. So basically,
I prefer to use poison.
No.
The government focus is how do we ensure that we bring it back,
right?
Whilst admitting that 23% is still not good for the Ghanaian people.
Right. Doc, what Dr. Kabiru is saying is that if I poison you, these days there is a lot of talk about poison, so let me use that as an example. I prefer to use poison.
No.
That is what Ghanaians can relate to.
Then use somebody else, don't use me.
Doc, let me use Dr. Kabiru.
Okay, if they poison you.
Okay, if you poison me.
No, I will not. If everybody can use it.
There's a lot of talk about poisoning.
Everybody is running away from poison. So please don't.
All right, Doc. Let me just use a hypothetical example. If you poison me, and I am on the verge of death, then you manage to rush me to the hospital. They put drips of water on me, put an oxygen machine on me and all that. Give me some emergency medical treatments. and my situation stabilizes a bit. But I'm still bed-stricken, still sick, I cannot walk. You can turn around and say, oh, you know, I've reduced your condition significantly. Things are better, so clap for me. That is what you're saying. Because inflation should not have reached a staggering 54% by December 2022 in the first place. The only reason why inflation increased to that unbearable, that, you know, humongous level is because you deliberately decided to be reckless. You deliberately decided to mismanage the economy by getting the central bank to print for you 45 billion Ghana cedis in 2022 alone. A fact admitted by the Bank of Ghana and the Ministry of Finance. And the fact that your boss, Alhaji Bawumia, who supervised all this mismanagement, has applauded. And so if you overprint money into the system that you can't even show what useful investments you did for, and that leads to an astronomical increase in the rate of inflation. And according to the World Bank, that plunges over 800,000 Ghanaians into poverty. You cannot turn around after now you've run to the IMF and you went there in an ambulance and the IMF has managed to put oxygen machines on you and so on, and has appointed for you a headmaster at the central bank to supervise you, to monitor you closely, and to ensure that you don't print any money for the government. And so as a result of that, we see some relative reduction in the rate of increase in prices from 54% to 23.2%. You cannot parade that as an achievement. No. You must still be in an apologetic mood, because we should not have gotten to 54% in the first place. And an inflation rate of 23% is still very, very high.
One thing I like about neutral radio stations and TV stations is that I'm afraid two political parties, and I say sometimes I'm afraid other political parties are joining the two dominant political parties, MPP and NDC. So MPP and NDC, me and our TV station and radio station, Obia getting the chance to talk, and I say the chance to speak, the chance to defend yourself, and the chance to explain things. Someone said the MPP ni explain things. Chiremu di intia. Chiremu say Ghana nkwan si ya economy na bad, and I say Ghana nkwan na struggle. Na Ghana nkwan na ho chire ba na then na government is doing all that he can, and I say he could have done. Why yeah, and he's doing what he can right now. Said the Beya Ghana for Humbetoma, Ghana for Bia Hunchina, unemployment rate in the number form. Now, we happen more say the Gyamfi may counter. Now, baby, I am a day baby. Gyamfi the price in the bisham. Nobody wouldn't say, I heard them say Gyamfi was playing some mind games. One would say, of course, when people say about the poison, I want to me aid the monkey can't say be about. Want to me being poisoned in the northern region. Once now I say you were late. Honorable John Kuma was also poisoned there. Until John Kuma's death is not a natural death. He was basically murdered, and as he was poisoned. Tiabusia mama who said that Sammy Gyamfi said that this are poison to be shame or na abusia. Sammy Gyamfi the Papa Nanga saw a top notch. Tiabusia anything about Sammy Gyamfi. More money the Indian no say MPP for poison is basically right now the topic I want people to see now. Because I need to know that they will introduce you poison on the topic man. No say kase. You see, I open MPP party my poison the main topic, and I said the high rate topic when people see here. Because you more said the same thing me a count on your man. Because when you because a chiro baby no Bawumia will be able. Because you more said that some things me start here now. Or born kakra or born kakra crabba. Tiabusia empower because we're cheating, because we're ninja, because baby at the pan last part, and honor made the power. So it's me take MPP for it said Bawumia, just all born a Tom man, I'm from question.
In 2016, when you were campaigning to be elected into government, The rate of inflation was 15% by December, 15.4%. You made a lot of noise about this, Dr. Kabir. And you said it was unacceptable for a country like Ghana to have a high inflation rate of 15.4%. You said 15.4% inflation rate was a mark of incompetence. So today you cannot be celebrating an inflation rate of 23% and a food inflation rate of 27.1%. That is hypocrisy. That is dishonesty. And the people of this country deserve better. In any case, the data I'm relying on goes beyond the rate of inflation, which has seen some relative stability or reduction, yet remains high. The data I am relying on also borders on the interest rates. And at the beginning of this year, we saw the publication. The interest rate we recorded in Ghana in 2022 and 2023, 2 consecutive years, are the highest interest rates in Africa for 2 consecutive years. How can businesses cope in an economic environment where they have to borrow at a rate of 36%? In 2022, at some point, the banks were lending at a rate of 38%, 40%. Today, interest rates are still hovering around 35% and over. So we are not out of the woods yet. In fact, we are still in the mess you have created. Unemployment rate is skyrocketing. It has hit a record high of 14.7%. Youth unemployment is around 22%. You understand? So it is not all the matrices that are on a downward trend. Things are even getting worse and worse by the day. I was just citing the example of the exchange rate. Not too long ago, it was 12.8. Then it came to 13 cedis, 13.1, 13.15, now 13.3 to $1. And you tell me that things are getting better. So don't just even look at the inflation rate alone. What about the dollar rate? Because your boss, Alhaji Bawumia, in opposition, when he was waxing lyrical about the economy, told us that when in doubt, look at the exchange rate. He said the exchange rate was the most important barometer for assessing the strength of the fundamentals of every economy. And that if the fundamentals of an economy were weak, the exchange rate will expose you to what is the state of the exchange rate against the dollar, 13.3. I just told you. When you're in year 13.2. Safer to get 1 million safer, 21,500. When it used to be 6,500. You're a Muslim, right?
Yes.
Good. You know that today, to go to Mecca, you need to cough up 75,000 Ghana cedis.
Exchange rate wahala.
Exactly. That is the impact of the exchange rate depreciation on even Mecca fares. When you only needed 11,900 in 2016 to go to Mecca. Now look at, we are not saying that prices should be static. We are not calling for inflation to be in the negatives. Look at the quantum of increment from 11,900 in 2016 to 75,000. Check the prices of basic commodities. So look, never in the recent history of this country, at least in the last 40 years, 4 decades.
In fact, during the vetting of my friend, the Minister of State designate for Finance, when she was speaking about Ghana's debt, the fact that our debt currently stands at 621 billion cedis, which represents a 509% increase from 2016. She says something, and I'd like to quote 2 paragraphs. Yeah. She says, Mr. Chairman, in that debt component, you have the dollar CD exchange issue, because all the amount is not contracted in a local currency. And so you have to convert all the amount into cedis. In 2022 alone, an additional 100 billion cedis was added to our debt, not because we borrowed, but because of the strength of our currency against the major trading currencies. End of quote. That's fine.
Abusia, Maho said the Sammy Gyamfi me and Nadian. Papa, me feeling the pa Yes, don't hate the player, hate the game. More politics now. Eso you say, eso team Ghana for believe the because of my Ghana. Abusia mo amuti papa na nsema Ghana for there akoma so na waka. High rate of unemployment ne said the new man boy den. Abusia bobo ni nyina so amaye. Abusia so kyerɛ wadwen. Some Gyamfi waka de obi pese waka na so waka Ghana for ni bi etirimu adwen. Abusia so kyerɛ wadwen fa de Sammy Gyamfi kan na ho. Ene de o man Ghana ekosisi ano. Abusia bi ankyerɛ na adwen. Abusia keep watching daily updates. Na bomba den so be like and subscribe and share so. Abusia kyerɛ wadwen. That's it.